Hey everyone, and welcome to today's Explainer. I am so thrilled you're here because we are looking at a truly fascinating trend today. Seriously, have you noticed the headlines recently? I mean, from retrofitted survival condos in Kansas to completely fortified, self-sustaining private islands in Hawaii, some of the world's richest individuals, tech titans, hedge fund managers, industry moguls, they're quietly pouring millions upon millions of dollars into something highly unusual. They are building massive, ultra-luxurious underground bunkers. And it naturally begs the exact question perfectly captured on our title today. What do billionaires know that we don't? Okay, let's dive right into this, because the answer is absolutely going to change how you view wealth, preparation, and the future. Now, when we hear the phrase underground bunkers, right, our minds almost immediately goes straight to Hollywood movies. We picture sci-fi apocalypses, total planetary destruction, or a dystopian wasteland, which naturally leads us to ask, are they preparing for the end of the world? It's a super provocative question, and frankly, it's the assumption most people make. But I want to tease a much more grounded truth for you right now. We are actually going to look right past that sci-fi doomsday panic, because the reality of what these billionaires are actually planning for is far more strategic, incredibly calculated, and honestly a lot more interesting than a Hollywood script.
Which brings us to Section 1, the bunker trend and the rise of luxury shelters. In recent years, the market for private survival shelters has experienced a massive spike in popularity. And look, we are not talking about a couple of eccentric folks burying shipping containers in their backyards. No way. This is a booming, highly sophisticated industry catering almost exclusively to the ultra-wealthy, basically transforming the whole concept of a survival shelter into a literal architectural marvel.
This trend completely shifts our framing of the situation. It's all about extreme risk management. Wealthy individuals are generally not approaching this from a place of irrational doomsday panic. Actually, scratch that. They aren't panicking at all. Instead, they are treating a luxury bunker as just one piece of a much broader, highly calculated risk management strategy. They're looking at the state of the world, identifying systemic vulnerabilities, and actively taking very calculated steps to mitigate their personal exposure to those risks.
So, if it's not a meteor strike they're running from, let's move right into Section 2, what are they escaping? Let's take a look at the possible scenarios.
This is where the grounded reality sets in. They are preparing for cyber attacks that could severely disrupt our digital and physical infrastructure. Think along the lines of recent ransomware attacks on major pipelines, but on a much broader national scale. They're planning for future pandemics that could completely dwarf recent memory. They're looking at the increasing frequency of severe natural disasters just wiping out local supply chains. They are factoring in political instability and civil unrest, tracking global metrics of polarization, as well as the cascading threat of long-term regional power outages. So the absolute crucial point here is this. These are not alien invasions, guys. These are tangible, systemic failures. These are events that have happened before and could easily happen again, and billionaires are actively allocating capital to ensure they are fully insulated from the fallout.
And that brings us to a really fascinating psychological reveal in Section 3, the risk management mindset. To truly understand the bunker trend, we really have to look at how the ultra-wealthy actually think and operate day to day. They're essentially taking the exact same corporate-level strategies they use to protect their multi-billion-dollar global companies and applying them directly to their own personal lives and physical safety.
Think of this as standard insurance versus what we can playfully call billionaire insurance. For the average person, standard insurance is all about covering the known, statistical risks of everyday life, right? We buy insurance to protect against a car crash, a house fire, or a sudden medical emergency. But billionaires, well, they're operating on a completely different scale. They are buying extreme preparedness insurance to protect against massive, systemic collapse. The bunker is simply the physical manifestation of an insurance policy against the breakdown of society itself.
The core logic driving this entire trend is preparing for low-probability, high-impact events. These are situations that are highly unlikely to occur on any given Tuesday, right? But if they did, the consequences would be absolutely massive and devastating. Just as large corporations spend millions to insure against worst-case scenarios that might disrupt their global supply chains, like, say, a giant cargo ship unexpectedly blocking a major global canal or a sudden regional conflict, billionaires are utilizing this exact same mathematical logic for their own survival. They look at the low odds, they look at the catastrophic impact, and they decide the premium, even if it's a $20 million underground complex, is absolutely a premium worth paying.
So, what does a $20 million insurance policy actually look like? Let's move to Section 4, inside a modern megabunker. Because I promise you, these are absolutely not the dark, damp cellars of the Cold War era. Not even close.
We can actually map these specific luxurious features directly to the crises they are designed to mitigate. You've got military-grade air filtration systems, often with positive pressure capabilities, specifically installed for pandemics or airborne events. There is massive backup power generation, including deep earth geothermal taps, meant to outlast cyber attacks or extended grid failures. You'll find advanced water purification and literally years of food storage, sometimes even entire underground hydroponic gardens to ride out natural disasters. They build fully stocked medical rooms with real surgical equipment to handle emergencies during a systemic collapse where local hospitals simply aren't an option. And of course, luxury gyms, theaters, and entertainment spaces to combat the severe psychological toll of long-term isolation. Though kind of a wry observation here, having the world's most luxurious underground gym won't actually save you if the grid goes down and you can't figure out the manual override to open the massive steel bunker door.
And that logistical nightmare perfectly brings us to Section 5. Does this actually work? It's time for a reality check, because a bunker is certainly not a guarantee, and we need to look at whether this extreme strategy holds water if a real, prolonged disaster were to strike. The reality is, long-term survival depends on so many factors beyond just a shelter. While it's absolutely true that having a fully stocked megabunker will give you an incredible advantage in certain short-term emergencies, it is definitely not a magical solution for every disaster. Long-term survival relies on incredibly unpredictable factors. It relies on a functioning external ecosystem. It relies on the ongoing loyalty and stability of your highly paid security detail, especially when traditional money maybe no longer holds any value. It relies on the psychological endurance of the people trapped inside with you, and honestly, a million other variables that pure wealth simply cannot control.
So, as we wrap up today's explainer, let's weigh the ultimate question. Is this smart planning or just excessive caution? As we've learned from our sources today, these billionaires are probably not expecting the literal end of the world. More likely, they are just preparing for highly disruptive events they believe could have massive systemic consequences, even if the statistical odds of those events happening are quite low. They're simply applying corporate risk management to their personal safety. But I want to leave you with this final thought to debate. In a world full of unpredictable threats, is building a multi-million-dollar underground fortress the ultimate form of strategic foresight, or is it just a monument to extreme paranoia? Ultimately, it forces us to ask one last time, what do billionaires know that we don't? Thank you so much for joining me to unpack this fascinating topic. Think about that question, and I'll see you in the next explainer.